Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here, and it's time to talk about China's new flying saucer helicopter. So here's the deal, before you get all excited, the thing that you see behind me is merely a prototype that China has unveiled over the last week or so that was shown at an air show. It is called the Super Great White Shark Attack Helicopter. And they're saying it could take to the sky in 2020. So why are we covering this? Well, number one, obviously, if you take a look at this prototype, and listen, when you get up close to it, it looks like almost like a paper mache art project, right? It doesn't seem like it's actually real. I'm going to show you some of the design layouts on this thing. But they're basically saying, hey, it's an experimental craft. This thing can go 20,000 feet. It has a propeller on the bottom, and it has jet engines to move it forward on the side. They're also saying that it will be stealth and have the capability of firing missiles on the battlefield, although it's unclear where the bays for these weapons would be. Now, hate the tabloids all you want, but I think that the Sun did a pretty good job here in this short article summing up the entire thing and then showing you this. And when you look at a design like this, what does it remind you of? Well, to me, it reminds me of the Nazis, World War II, and especially the Horton brothers. Okay? And this is going to be key and clutch here. What you have to understand is that in 1935, as you can see right there, I'm going to show you some of the video of it. This is, again, before the end of World War II, which we're going to get into. They were already designing the flying wing, okay? Now, whether the flying wing or not was, some of the Foo Fighters, if you will, that were seen in World War II, probably not. Those were mostly balls of light. But when you look at that design, and you look at, like, say, a picture like this one right here, okay? What does that remind you of? Well, it reminds you of the stealth bomber, doesn't it? Looks a lot like it. Looks like that design was around, I don't know, about 50 plus years before the public saw it in action. Now, this to me shows you how certain types of technology can be suppressed from the public, and that, we don't really know what kind of tech we really have out there. And this is why I'm very critical of, Tom DeLonge and Elizondo and To the Stars Academy and all this naval footage of supposed alien spacecraft, when in my opinion, the craft that they're probably tracking, most of the craft that you're seeing, are either experimental light phenomenon by the U.S. government's black projects or experimental aerial phenomenon. And when we talk about the Horton brothers specifically, okay, you again have to understand that these guys were actually picked up after World War II. And there's not a lot of information out there as to what they were doing in between World War II apparently being picked up by the Russians, and then the United States getting them through Operation Harass. In 2011, when Annie Jacobson put out her book, Area 51, a book that I haven't read all of it, but I've read quite a bit of it, and especially the Operation Harass part, she makes the claim in that book, and it's one of the less substantiated claims. It's it's bookended, okay? It's bookended. There's a little bit in the beginning. There's a more developed story at the end. But what we do know is these brothers did exist. The Horton wing does exist, and whether or not they made the flying disc technology, they certainly did not want to talk about it. But the United States absolutely got them. Okay, they got them, they had them, and lo and behold, the story goes like this. I'm not endorsing this story, by the way. However, I'm not saying it's not real. Okay, and let's watch some of the footage of the wing. And this is an old model. Remember the first Horton wings that they were putting out, that 1935, that was actually made of wood. Forget about metal and the jet engines, but this stuff was around. I can only imagine the type of footage that's out there of some of these projects that the public has just never seen. So let's go back to this little flying saucer. Anyway, Annie Jacobsen proposes this, that Stalin was able to get the saucer technology that the Horton brothers developed, the Foo Fighter technology. And there are History Channel documentaries out there showing you some of the different designs and where they feel there would have been places for them to land and take off in Germany, etc. She proposes that the Roswell incident was actually very real, but not what we think. And her proposal is that the craft that crashed in Roswell was actually a Russian craft, and that the reason that there were bodies there was that Stalin had genetically modified human beings to look like aliens. I know it sounds far-fetched, but when you look at what the Nazis were doing with eugenics, when you look at the human experimentation that was going on during that period, to think that Russia was not doing that, and to think that the United States was not doing that, is extremely naive, in my opinion. So again, not endorsing this, but she believes that, and again, she did a lot of research. The people that she was interviewing, talking about Area 51, talking about how it was actually created by the Central Intelligence Agency and how there was a lot of bureaucratic headbutting as to who was actually going to take over this facility where they would be using experimental aircraft, right? And this is long, 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 long before it came into public view. Now, imagine you're a farmer or you're an MP in the military, and you come up on this, and you find these 3 to 4 foot humanoid beings that have giant heads, spindly arms, possibly no genitals. What are you going to think? You're not going to think they're human. And basically, she says this was a psychological operation, and that the reason that we didn't out this psychological operation was simply because we were doing the same exact thing to human beings. We were doing the same disgusting experimentation. And she talks a lot about the Department of Atomic Energy and how later on it would come out that they were running human experimentation, which was illegal, where they were radiating people and doing a lot more. And I've talked about how Bill Clinton actually had to give a press conference, big, thick book. The majority of it was a whitewash. Don't get me wrong. They absolutely admitted to horrific things that were going on. But for the most part, it was milquetoast. It was very, very tame. Now, here's the thing. If we want to talk about real saucer-like craft or the triangle-type craft or all these other things, my belief is that when you see some of these things, and especially the ones that are being tracked by, the Navy and some of these amateur videos, what you're talking about are separate propulsion systems, right? And when you're talking about separate propulsion systems, not rocket technology, you're probably talking about a separate energy source. And that's a big thing. Because if we have separate energy sources, ones that are better than fuel or gas or even nuclear, more efficient, well, that really disrupts the power structure. Can you imagine if you didn't have a power bill every month? Or if third world nations were able to have a separate power source that they could rely on that was either low or no cost, they would transform like that. They would actually become nation states that could compete with the United States. And in a very short time, could probably come up with their own military type technology. And that's why I thought it was really important when NASA started talking about the impossible M drive. Now, this was all the way back in 2016 when we said it, but in 2018, some of the trials were put out on this thing, the M drive, right? There's a good look at it. And they said it is impossible. It doesn't work. Yeah, because NASA has been so honest with us over the years. They've been so honest about everything. NASA, they would never lie to the public. The CIA would never lie to the public. We would never, ever, 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 ever hold technology from the people. And although in 2018, when they ran these tests, they said again, it doesn't work, it is impossible, this is all Johnny nonsense, I want to point out that just recently, this is the October 14th, that, this NASA engineer is still proposing the fuelless engine to propel spacecraft almost at the speed of light. And it is my belief that we have gone well beyond rocket technology. And anytime they are trying to sell you that we're going to the moon or we're going to go to Mars based on rocket technology, it's a big heaping pile of bullshit. If that were the case, it would be the only technology when we went to the moon with that rocket technology that has not been replicated by another nation. Ever. And today, when we talk about space travel, we often talk about how it's being privatized, right? The Richard Bransons of the world, more recently, the Jeff Bezoses and the Elon Musks of the world. And what do? They keep failing. You know why they keep failing? Because they're using rocket technology. Are we to believe that Elon Musk, a person that is pushed by the mainstream, a person that is now trying to put a brain chip Neuralink in your head, a Bluetooth device behind your ear in your skull that is threaded 4 times with 4 just tiny holes through synthetic fiber that will let you interact with your computer and other electronic devices? We're supposed to trust that guy, right? The big transhumanist, the man that says we need to merge with machines or artificial intelligence will wipe us out? Give me a break. So the moral of this story is, I think that China is going to develop this. Whether or not this comes out as, their next fleet or force, that remains to be seen how practical this is. But I think that, the public is starting to be prepared to see different types of aircraft that are going to be going beyond what we have traditionally seen out there. The traditional drones and the traditional stealth aircraft. And I know there are a lot of people out there that think Project Bluebeam and fake alien invasion, and I'm not, 100% discounting that. But guys, it's 2019. It'll be 2020 before you know it, and 2030 and 2040 and 2050. The days, weeks, and months roll on. And if you think a technology that was heavily used during World War II, aka rocket technology, is all we have, is the way that we're going to propel to space. Remember, Wernher von Braun, when he initially said how much fuel it would take to get to the moon, it was much, much more than NASA would talk about later, especially with the Apollo missions. He talked about basically fuel tanks the size of the Empire State Building, multiple ones, to propel us into space. So I'll just say this. A lot of what we've been told about the space program is absolute horseshit. And now that Trump is rolling out Space Force, we're going to see a lot of different designs. And eventually, I think they're just going to have to come clean and say, look, we're using a different type of propulsion technology that's based in a different type of energy source. Whether or not that's obfuscated, whether or not the public ever gets to see that or use that is another question. I know there are a lot of people out there that are going to disagree with me. Please do so in the comments. Let me know what you think. I know a lot of people don't believe Annie Jacobsen, but Annie Jacobsen has also done some really good books on the Nazis, on Project Paperclip, the program after World War II where we took Nazi scientists and integrated them into NASA, into the Central Intelligence Agency that would be formed. Remember, that was the OSS during World War II. And she's also done some great stuff on DARPA, the Pentagon's brain, which DARPA, that's a real thing. That's something I cover at length because those technologies are extremely real. Folks, we're doing it 3 to 7 times a day, all sorts of subjects. I watched the Democratic debates for 3 hours last night, so you didn't have to. You want to see my wrap up? Go check it out. It's only 24 minutes, and it pretty much gives you everything you need to know about the Johnny nonsense that was put out there. We're covering it all here. Bilderberg, Nexium, Epstein, and let's not forget Conor McRapist. Again, no one else will cover it because he's being protected by the UFC, Disney, WME Entertainment. And when I say Disney, it's, the ESPN deal. But just so everybody knows, he's under investigation for yet another sexual assault that occurred last week in Dublin, and it is crickets in the mainstream media. If they can't tell you the truth about a sports star, and when you watch the news, you see footage from a gun range in Kentucky that's supposedly in Syria, you should know that your mainstream media masters have nothing but contempt for you and don't feel like they need to tell you the truth. That's one of the things that we really do need to discuss. So guys, I'm a documentary filmmaker. You can see all of my documentaries for free here right now in the playlist section. Loose Change Final Cut, Fabled Enemies, Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined, and Shade the Motion Picture. And this is how I do it. It's a GoFundMe. I wait to the end to actually ask for this. I understand if you can't, but if you can, if you like my reporting, if you like information you're really not seeing anywhere else, please consider giving me $5, $10, $15. Means the world to me. I'm quite a bit behind this month, but we're going to try to jack through some videos today, and hopefully with your support, we're going to continue to do this day after day, week after week, month after month, and grow year after year. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the flip side.